How do you go from a couple employees to a couple dozen to 100+ employees and maintain the culture? The best way that I've found to do this is through... Question for you guys is, what are people saying about you when you're not around? Like how are people talking about your personal brand? Now, the obvious question is, wouldn't it be great if you had control of that actual narrative? Because that's really what it's about, right? Especially now with social media, the cameras, the iPhones, everybody's filming stuff. Wouldn't it be great if you had control over that actual narrative with people, how people tell the story about you, your team, what you're doing? So here's how we've done it, because again, Sam, I'm going to go back to what you asked me earlier. How do you go from a couple employees to a couple dozen to 100+ employees and maintain the culture? So the best way that I've found to do this, and this is going to tie right back to your brand, and you'll see exactly how in a second, is through what we call, and I didn't invent this, and I'll tell you what book I got it from, is something called the Code of Honor. So for those of you who've been part of M1 and you've kind of gone through all the tiles during your onboarding, you may have seen our Code of Honor. Now, what is a Code of Honor? Well, ultimately, it's your manifestation of the kind of culture you want to create, both for your clients and for your investors and for your employees. Because what it does, your Code of Honor, what it'll do is it'll appeal to people that relate to your beliefs, to your core beliefs. And ultimately that, I'm going to get to this, this is at the essence of your brand. So without a strong personal Code of Honor, you're going to have a really hard time, number one, attracting clients, number two, demonstrating your worth to investors, and three, retaining the best employees that actually want to be part of what you're building. So as an example, our first code is life happens for you, not to you. So here's the thing. When I hire salespeople, when we hire people within our team, operations, whatever it is, I'll literally say, hey, so the book I have everybody read is called The Obstacle is the Way. And if you guys have never heard of this book, it's fantastic. It's by a guy named Ryan Holiday, and it's rooted in Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, the last great emperor. And Stoicism is the premise that you're in charge. Regardless of, Warren Buffett says it another way, it's not about the hand you're dealt, it's about how you play it, right? So if you guys don't mind, if you guys have staff and you say something to them and they argue with you, these are not the people I want to hire. Because if someone immediately says, well, yeah, but here's all these things I'm not in control of, I say, okay, fair enough. I'm not going to hire that person. Because I already know that your default mechanism in your mind is to make excuses for why something isn't your responsibility. And that doesn't work for me, culturally. It doesn't work for my community, it doesn't work for my business, it doesn't work for my life. So it's really important that you guys have a code. Now, we'll give you guys some time after to develop your code, but I just want to walk you through mine. Another one is no decision is a decision. So literally, if you can't make a decision, you've made a decision. As the worst one, because you've taken no control over that outcome. Because without making a decision, whatever happens wasn't because of what you did and you have nothing to learn from. It just happened because you refused to take accountability. Say no. Say yes. But make a decision. The third one that I have here is you can be firm and kind. So you guys know, if you've been with me a long time, I'm a no-nonsense guy. But it always comes from a place of love. Why? Because I'm not here to be your friend. My team is not here to be your friend. We'll be friendly, but our job is to push you to get a result. So that, and again, these codes are our codes. You may disagree with some or all of the, well, you probably won't disagree with all of them, but you may disagree with some of these, and that's fine. You can set your own code. But when you're trying to attract talent, whether it's a VA, an employee, an investor, if they see what you stand for, that weaves into your personal brand, which is what I'm going to get to next. The fourth one, never be needy, leave people better than you found them, compete with yourself. You can see the theme here. Right? There's a theme to all of this. Competence creates confidence, people over processes, follow one course until successful. These are our codes. This is our code of honor. This is how we govern ourselves. Now, how many of you, if you had something like this that was unique to you, would make it easier for you to demonstrate culture within your company? By a show of hands. All of you, right? And that's exactly what this is. You guys need to be, for you to build a brand that attracts investors, that attracts people, you need to create a very high degree of certainty with your clients. And if they understand what to expect from you, then they'll know what's expected of them. as an investor, as an employee, as a partner, as a financing individual, whoever it is in your team. And by the way, guys, this is some of the hardest work to do. So I don't expect you to leave here today and have your 10 or your 5 or your 7, but maybe in the back of your mind, you're already like, I got 3 or 4. I got 3 or 4. Okay, cool. Write them down because that starts to create your culture. The best time to create culture is when it's you and a laptop, before you've hired your first VA, before you've hired your first person. The next best time is obviously now, because then when people are coming on board, they'll literally buy into what you're doing. And that's the hardest thing to fake. Like creating a culture will create a maximum accountability in your team where people aren't going to be worried about working a few extra hours on a certain day because they believe in the mission. They want to be part of it. And they know they're going to get rewarded on the other side. Really big piece. So good book on that, guys. I told you I didn't invent this concept. It's called Team Code of Honor by a guy named Blair Singer. This book is about 20 or 25 years old. Fantastic book. Blair Singer, I met him. He's one of Robert Kiyosaki's early business partners. So if any of you guys remember Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about in the book how he was selling Xeroxes door to door, Xerox sales guy. So Blair Singer was selling Xeroxes with him door to door. They were buddies from like 50 plus years ago. So anyways, Blair's book, Code of Honor, is a fantastic book. It really changed how I lead, how I perceive my role as a leader and create that code of honor. So I definitely recommend it to you guys. Now, where does this fit in? Well, your code of honor is what you stand for. And what you stand for is your personal brand. So if you're struggling to figure out how to brand yourself, start with what your beliefs are. Literally start with this. Because once you get clear on 3 or 4 or 5 things that are absolute non-negotiables for you, it gets really easy to then start to package yourself as that. Because for a lot of people, it's really hard to look at themselves as anything other than themselves with their personal story. So this gives you a really good framework around that.